It's time to get back to the garden. We've been getting a few requests lately for a garden set. Vicky put one together, and today we're going to use our brand new garden set along with 1.5" fatty font and 2" fatty font and make a cool little gardening sign. We're going to do some inset letters and some outset letters, and we're going to use a couple of the templates out of the new set. We'll leave links in the description below for everything we're using, and that's including the letters and numbers, the new set, and all the router bits we're using. So we're going over a bunch of different things, so let's get started.
For this sign, we used a 25" piece of blue pine shiplap. Now we get this stuff at Lowe's, and for a 15-foot board, it's like 12 or 15 bucks. It's really cheap. And once you rip the shiplap off, you get about a 6" board, and it carves awesome. So Dad put the templates on either side where they're going to go, and then he made the marks. That way he makes sure to lay the letters out where he has enough room in between the templates. Once he gets both of his lines set up, then he connects them with a straight edge and he starts laying out his letters. Now this is the longest portion of the layout process. This entire thing took Dad right about, I don't know, 12 or 13 minutes. It didn't take very long, but getting your spacing in between the letters is really the hardest part of the whole situation. But once you do it a little bit, it doesn't take very long to get an eye for it. Once all the letters and the templates were where he needed them to be, he used our primer. Now remember, if you're going to spray with paint, it's got to be flat or matte finish, otherwise it's going to bleed.
Hey guys, just a quick second. We're on a big campaign to try and hit 100,000 subscribers in 2024. You would really be doing us a great favor if you could hit that like and subscribe button. We're putting out a ton of content. If you get value out of what we're doing, that's all we're asking. We really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
The first bit Dad's using is a profile bit at 3/16 of an inch deep. Now one thing I want to mention here, guys, and I feel like we don't say it enough, is that you have to clean your bits. What happens is, as you use your bits more and more, then it gets buildup on it, and that creates heat, and that will make your bits dull faster. We've been getting a lot of questions lately about how long do bits last. So usually after every 1 to 2 signs, we'll just clean our bits, take a little brass wire brush and knock some of that stuff off of there, and it will really extend the life of your bits. Trust me on this, it is a game changer. Most of the templates we sell and that we use, you could do either inset or outset. So that means you have a choice of either carving the image in the board or carving around the image so it stands out. If you're doing what we're doing here, which is outset, then basically all you're doing is following the line around the image. Now we're going to go back and make that line a little bigger so you don't have to worry about getting it dead on the first time. You have some room for error. So a lot of times carving outset is actually a little bit easier than carving inset. And me personally, I think it looks better, but that's up for interpretation. Now we're doing the bottom line of lettering, and that's going to be outset, so Dad's doing the exact same thing. And again, this is going to have a cloud, so it gives a lot more room for error. Now you'll notice that Dad goes over several areas more than one time. So he'll work on an area, get it close, and then kind of come back and do the final touches and take as much of that black off and get as close to the line as he can. That's why Dad gets such fine lines. A little bit finer than mine because he has a little bit more patience than I do. But I'm hoping that'll come with age. Now you'll notice that the exclamation point is actually one piece. Now that we do that so when we cut it out, it comes out as one and we can put it in the package. But as you're carving it, you see Dad went right through that little line. So you want to make sure you make it 2 pieces even though the layout is 1 piece. Now Dad's going to take that same profile bit and he's going to drop it to 1/4 inch deep, and he's just going to go around and make the lines bigger that he already made. This is one of those steps that takes a little bit extra time, but in the long run it's going to save you time. That way you don't have to get as close to your carving with the 90 degree and take a risk at nicking something that you don't want to nick. Now Dad's going to do the 1.5" fatty font, which is the top line, and that's inset. And he's using the 60 degree at 3/16 of an inch deep. One of the questions we get asked more than anything is what bit is used for which job. And for something like this, that's kind of up to each person. We like using the 60-degree bit for inset letters up to 3 inches. One of the reasons for that is because it cuts a little bit better than the profile because it's 3-fluted, and it cuts more wood away, so it actually takes less time. The downfall of that is it's harder to get sharp points. So the fatty font is really easy to carve with the 60-degree bit. When you get into some of the other fonts like the Squares Bold or the Clarendon, then you might want to try the profile bit, even though it's going to take you a little bit longer just to get a hand at it and just to kind of get some practice, because it is easier to get those sharp points with the profile bit. However, I recommend that you do try to get used to using the 60-degree bit because it's going to go quite a bit faster and it's going to cut a lot smoother. Something to notice here is that because the letter is a little bit wider than the bit, Dad is staying close to the edges. He's carving along the edges, and then the bit will actually take out what's left in the middle. You don't want to carve down the middle and then try to work your way towards each edge from there. Go down one edge, come back, hit the other edge, and that should take out everything. And if it doesn't, then you just have little pieces here and there you got to go back and get. Next, Dad's using the 90-degree bit at 1/4 of an inch deep, and he's going to use this for 2 reasons. Number 1 is to go around the templates and give it a bolder line, and then number 2 is to go around the bottom line of lettering and make a cloud. Now, when it comes to the templates, you don't have to do this, but I think it does add a little bit of a thicker line. It gives it a little bit more of a contrast between the template and the board, and it really kind of makes them pop. If you don't do this, then it just kind of looks like it was drawn with a pencil, in my opinion. Again, there's some really great carvers out there that don't like to add this line, but I think it really does add a little bit to the sign itself and give it a little bit more depth and contrast. To make the cloud, Dad's just kind of doing a free-form shape around the letters. A lot of people like to do different shapes. You can do an oval, you can do it real small, you can do it real big, whatever you want to do. And if you're new to carving, do a bunch of different stuff. Do a bunch of practice boards, try with different things and see what you like. We like the little cloud like this. I think it looks really good, but you might like something different. Make sure that when you're done with your carving, you take a stiff bristle brush and man, you brush the crap out of that thing. Dad uses the disc sander to round the corners on a lot of his signs. He makes this look really easy, but it does take some practice. I'm still not all that great at it, so I guess I better do a little bit more. But it really does make the sign look nice, especially if it's not an aggressive sign, just a nice little house sign like this. Now Dad's going to use our 45-degree chamfer bit, and he's going to put a good deep chamfer along the front of the sign. One thing that we've disagreed with several times over the past couple years is, do you put a chamfer on the back? And yes, you do. I hate to admit it, but Dad's right. We put a big chamfer on the front and a small chamfer on the back. It gives it a much cleaner and finished look, even though I fought him on it for a really long time. But I've finally come around. Now once it's all carved and blown off, Dad's just going to spray it with the primer, and again, make sure you don't overspray. This is pine, it will bleed, especially if you don't have any clear coat on it like we don't on this one. Once the primer dried, which only took maybe 5 minutes, especially because we're in Arizona and it's like 300 degrees right now, Dad sanded off the back first with a 60 grit disc on our disc sander. Then he sanded off the front with the same disc, and one thing we started doing is between the rough disc and the fine disc, we're blowing it off, because if you don't, then that dark sawdust can actually grind into your nice pine board, and then you have more sanding to do. And that is not my favorite part of the sign carving process. Once it's all done, we put a few coats of Rust-Oleum clear on it, and man, this blue pine looks great with a nice clear coat.
I really like the way this one came out. It was nice and simple. I decided to do both of the templates on here outset, and I love the way they look. But we went ahead and carved the other 8 out of the set, and we mixed them, some inset, some outset. The cool thing is you can carve them whichever way you like. But most of all, these will work one way or the other, whether you like them inset or like them outset. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. We had fun doing this. If you have any questions, email me directly, eric@makeawoodsign.com. Again, links to everything we used is down in the description below. Thanks, guys. We love you. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.